So I think we're right on the precipice of a huge change in accounting with the influx of AI,
Mhm.
what it can and can't do, when you should and should not use it, but rather be using their knowledge and their experience and their skills to do strategic thinking.
Hey folks, Sven Nelson, C2C Resources, also known as the guy that gets you paid. I am here with my guest, Janet Bradshaw. Janet, if you wouldn't mind just introducing yourself, telling us who you're with and what you do.
Sure. Hi, folks, and thank you, Sven, for having me as a guest. My name is Janet Bradshaw, and I am currently serving as the CFO of a medical support organization called Pearl Medical Holdings. We support vascular and cardiac care facilities. We have
Okay,
our facilities in the Midwest, California, and in Hawaii.
awesome. Wow, I just actually came from Hawaii, so
Did you? Yeah,
yeah, I did. I did.
lovely place to visit.
Oh, it was. Yeah, we went to Maui. That was our first time ever going. Since we'd moved to Arizona, it made the flight a lot less painful than trying to go from Kansas City in the Midwest, right?
Yes, for sure.
Well, Janet, thanks for coming on. I'm really happy and excited to have you as a guest here on the show. Let me ask you, what is it that made you decide to get into accounting and become a CFO? What drove you to this business or this industry in specifically?
A very interesting and good question. And I have to go way back to whenever I was in college. I actually started college when I was a junior in high school, and I wanted to be a juvenile correction officer.
Oh, wow, that's quite a change.
Yes. And so I moved to Dallas midways in my undergraduate program, and there wasn't a school in the Dallas Fort Worth area that offered a degree that I was pursuing. So I ended up switching and going into business. And I actually had a teacher. I was taking a bookkeeping, I think it was Accounting 101, the very first accounting class that you take. And he pulled me aside and he said, "What degree plan do you have in your business, in your business degree? What do you want to do?" And I said, "Well, I really don't know. I had to change my degree plan. I'm kind of, flopping around right now, not really sure." And he goes, "You need to be an accountant." And I was like, "Okay, tell me more." And he goes, "Your work comes in very well done. It's neat." He said, "You've got the concepts. At least do another course or two in accounting and see if you like it."
Hmm.
And so I followed his advice, and I ended up with an undergraduate in management with a major in accounting, and then went on and got my MBA again, majored in accounting. Actually had a double major in my MBA program, accounting and marketing, which is kind of an odd combination for a person. And then ended up a few years later, like many years later, decided that I really fell in love with the idea of learning and teaching leadership. So I ended
Hmm.
up going back to school to Dallas Baptist University and got a master's degree in leadership studies. So
Awesome.
my career path, I started out, I worked full time and went to school at night to get my degrees. And so I was working in accounting related jobs, and then ended up when I graduated taking a controller's position. Oh, I actually went into public accounting for a short period of time, then took a controller's position at one of our clients, our CPA firm clients' offices, and then sort of spent some time in printing for 15 years, and then financial services, and then alarm services, and then ended up in the medical space in medical durable equipment, and
Okay.
then
Yeah, DME.
into a dental support organization, and now a medical support organization. So, been a CFO for about 15 years.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, you've been doing it a while then.
Yeah.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit. So, did you have a mentor in your life that was in this industry that you followed or that drove you even further down the career path?
So, I had mentors in many places in my life, obviously. Um, that teacher that encouraged me to be an accountant. I kept up with him. He actually worked full time for the IRS, and so I kept up with him for a while. And he continually encouraged me. When I'd get kind of um, felt like I was being overly challenged or whatever with a course, I would call him up and I would say, "Look, this and this," and he would always calm me down and keep me focused. And then
Sure.
once I got into business, a woman who I had gone to college with, had quickly escalated up the path in accounting, and she ended up being kind of my guiding star. And she became a CFO a few years before I did. But I watched what she did and what made her successful. And she and I are still close friends. She no longer works, but she and I are still close friends. And she had a big impact on my life. So
That's
all
awesome.
along the way, I've had presidents and CEOs that have have served as mentors in various companies, and many that I'm still friends with today. So
That's
it's been a good
fantastic.
ride.
It's all about relationships. I say that every
That's
time.
right. That
So,
is exactly right.
what skills do you think that the CFO of the future will need versus the CFO of today?
So I think we're right on the precipice of a huge change in accounting with the influx of AI. So I think if someone wants to be a CFO today, they really need to spend some time in learning about technology, what
Hmm.
it can and can't do, when you should and should not use it,
Hmm.
all those things in order to be successful.
Yeah.
I believe that the whole accounting profession is going to change, and hopefully to a place where accounting people will no longer be doing menial, like manual key stroke
Yep.
task, but rather be using their knowledge and their experience and their skills to do strategic thinking and lead businesses in the directions that they need to be led.
Absolutely, absolutely. What do you think I mean, you've obviously dealt with a lot of industries, which is awesome.
Yes.
I mean, I too in the collections business and also with my lending business, we see a lot of different industries, and that's what I love so much about what I do is that I get to explore a lot of different industries and learn how a lot of different industries work and how they make money and the inner workings of that. So, I mean, because of your experience, what do you think the biggest mistake is that you see with regards to finance and cash flow that businesses make?
I think it's probably not looking far enough down the road.
Okay.
Having a long-term plan. Short-term plans are very important,
Yep.
but I think your short-term plans need to be the pillars that support that long-term plan. And cash flow, cash is king. And
It is.
I've worked in several different organizations where cash was a problem from time to time. And most of it was, in my opinion, not looking down the path far enough to either develop your service to a wider audience, develop your products for a wider audience, develop your sales team, all the things that bring in that commercial side of the business, that sales side of the business,
Hmm.
so that you can keep that cash flow. And then on the flip side, making sure that your operations people are always looking at expenses. How can we do things smarter? How can we do things more efficiently in order to save money in the cost side? So you've got both sides pressing to the middle.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, and speaking of cash flow, so I mean, it's no secret that anytime you're dealing with insurance providers or Medicaid and Medicare, whereas I assume you guys are in your business,
Mhm. Yes.
that payables can struggle, right? Because you're juggling cash flow all the time.
Mhm.
What are some of the key things that you would recommend to folks that are in your position that are waiting for government payments and Medicare and Medicaid to pay out? How do you juggle the cash flow? Like what do you recommend to people?
I think the very best recommendation is to make sure you have a really great relationship with your bank.
Yeah.
A lot of banks will, if you're in good credit standing, they will offer you revolving lines of credit, which kind of fill in those gaps when you're waiting for your cash to come in. Yeah, it costs some money, but you're able to still keep your relationship strong with your vendors and making sure that you're taking care of your employees at the same time. So, my number one word of advice is find a bank, a business friendly bank, find a banker, and make sure that you stay in contact with them and develop a really good, strong relationship with them.
That's great advice because I know a lot of times with my lending company, and I call it a lending company where we're more of a financial intermediary where we connect folks with capital, right? Working capital for their
Mhm.
business. And oftentimes people come to us at the 11th hour, right? When they're just like, they're struggling, right? And the best time to get money is when you don't quite need it yet.
Yep,
You've
that's
got
right.
to look ahead, just like you suggested. You've got to be prepared for the future. And so, we coach people all the time that, come to us in that scenario, like, listen, here's what you need to do to get yourself in a better position so you are bankable. And now this is when you need to come so that you're ready to actually get the money. Because if you come to us when you really desperately need it, the only people that are going to be there for you are the vultures. And those aren't the people you want to be borrowing money from.
No.
So,
Yes.
that's just, my experience. That's what I've seen. So, what
Yes.
do you think the best way for a CFO to position themselves would be as a key decision maker beyond just finance?
I think you made a point about relationships. I think when you come into an organization as a finance person, there's a lot of people in the organization that have preconceived ideas about what you're going to be like, how you're going to come down on them. The first thing you should do is start developing relationships and telling a story not on about only about yourself and your team, but also about how the future might look when all the parts of the puzzle, all the pieces of the puzzle are put together well, where operations and sales and accounting are all working together for the same end goal. It really is about establishing relationships of trust and
Yes.
also providing, I'll call it knowledge and training and education to people who may not have the same knowledge, training, and education that we do on the accounting and finance side,
Yep.
but they need to understand the numbers. They need to understand how what the levers are in their uh, within their control to impact the numbers. And
Yep.
once you get that going, and they can come to you and ask you what they perceive as a dumb question, and you don't treat it as a dumb question, but you
Right.
take the time to teach them, then you are way down the road in developing that relationship you need.
100%. 100%. You got to give a little bit more to get, right? I'm always lead with value. I'm always
Yes.
trying to give stuff away, trying to give information, trying to educate people, share my knowledge. And that's the best way to do it. That's the best way to build those relationships. I agree with you 100%. What do you think people misunderstand most about your profession as a CFO?
I think a lot of it depends. It's the whole baggage you bring to work, right? So if they've had an experience with a person in an accounting or finance leadership position that's not been positive,
Hmm.
then they're going to come with that preconceived idea. I think that most everybody looks at accounting and finance as being the bad guys, the ones that always say no.
Yeah, they're stopping the
They're
momentum, right?
stopping us. We can't proceed. We can't be successful. They won't let us spend money. All those things. So I think when you flip the script on that and you help them understand why you've answered it the way that you've answered it, or why you have brought up the questions or the points that you've brought up, then it eases the pain. And
Hmm.
then they can kind of step into your shoes and see how you're looking at the business and understand your responsibilities in the business of protecting the company's assets.
Absolutely. Are there any networking groups or associations that you belong to and follow?
Yes, I do. I actually participate locally in the CFO Leadership Council,
Oh,
which
awesome.
is a national organization that has chapters in many, many cities across the country. We have a group of about 100 CFOs or VPs or controller level accounting people
Hmm.
that we meet monthly, and we have a prescribed program that provides a continuing education for those of us who have CPA behind our name. But it's also just a really great group that what happens in the room stays in the room. They can ask any kind of questions, talk about a lot of things, and then we have social events as well to get to know each other on a more social basis. So that's one of my groups that I participate in regularly. I'm actually on the advisory board of the Dallas chapter. A lot of fun, a great group of people. We have about 100 members, I think, that attend our meetings. And then the other one is another national group. It's called the CFO Alliance, and
Okay.
that is a group that they have a platform. It's founded by a gentleman by the name of Nick Araco. He is actually an attorney that felt like that there was a real need in his work of putting CFOs together so that we could share ideas and commiserate and then celebrate all at the same time. And
Right.
so they do meetings across the country, and those meetings are quarterly, but they have very regular, like mastermind Zoom calls
Yep.
or, those kinds of things. So another really great group to be a part of.
So you would recommend both of those groups as being
Yes, I
something that
would.
people should join
Hmm.
if they're interested in your career path. And
Yes. Hmm.
absolutely. So let me ask you, what makes you feel inspired about the work that you do?
Um, that's a great question. It's numbers, right? So you have to
Yeah.
look for things to be inspired about, right?
You got to
Um,
really get excited about math.
yeah, exactly. You get happy when your balance sheet balances, when your statement of cash flows work, all those things. I think the thing that inspires me the most, and especially in the last two places, at the DSO that I was with, and then this MSO, is being able to educate our partners who are clinicians. They went to medical school, they went to dental school, and neither one of those programs provide them any kind of business knowledge, but they
Right.
shove them out the door and say, oh, here, go start your practice. Well, guess what? Starting a practice is all about business. It's not about treating a patient.
Right.
And so being able to help them understand why they should be looking at certain KPIs in their business, how they should be monitoring their cash flows, how they can use levers inside the business in order to be more profitable. Those things, that's what inspires me and makes me excited to come to work, is being able to have those conversations.
So you would say that you're an educator in that regards. You like to educate people. You like to share your knowledge and help them increase their own knowledge of a subject matter that they're not familiar with at all, or they didn't even think about during their degree path, right?
Exactly. I mean,
Yeah.
they want to take care of patients, whatever that issue might be, whether it's a dental issue or a medical issue or whatever. That's why they went to medical school or dental school, is to take care of a patient.
Hmm.
And yes, I'm a teacher by nature. I've
Yeah.
always loved to teach.
Yeah.
I had about 10 years that I actually taught at night at the local college and loved doing that, teaching accounting to young students that were coming up and talking about different ways, different degree path or different career paths that they could go down with an accounting degree, because it's not just numbers. I mean, there are so many different career paths for someone with an accounting degree.
Yeah, absolutely. So people hire me to help them collect on bad debts. When I'm working with clients, I see that many of these clients struggle to find a good process, or if they do have a good process, they rarely follow it, and a lot of times it's due to because the executives and leadership or sales departments override their decisions, which are based on facts, not feelings. Where do you see this happening in your organization, and how do you handle it?
So this is I'm working currently. I'm working in a startup organization. So
Okay.
one of the beauties of a startup organization is that you kind of get to set your own policies and processes. You're hired for your history, for your skills, your knowledge, your experience, and then
Hmm.
you get to kind of create the boxes that then creates the picture. So I don't personally. I've not had that experience in my current position.
Okay.
And really, I'd have to kind of go back a couple of positions to get to a company where um, the CEO was a sales oriented individual and they would override what it was clearly on paper not the best or easiest path.
Sure.
Wasn't I don't mean that they were wrong. It just, sometimes we're trying to provide to them kind of the signs on the road to say this is the right path, take a right turn here, don't
Yeah.
continue
Yeah.
down this road. And so that, and it's frustrating, for anyone in my job,
Hmm.
to have somebody kind of override their decision. But at the same time, I think I look at it as I'm on a team. I'm
Hmm.
just one cog in the wheel. I'm
Yeah.
providing the information from my perspective. They
Yeah.
might have information I don't know. So if they make that decision, I need to rally behind them and try to make them successful. And that's been a very good path to follow, is even if you don't necessarily agree, buy in, support, and create success together.
That's an interesting take because at the end of the day, you're right. Everybody's on the same team, and you have to get behind the leadership, right? And
Hmm.
maybe you're a little more risk adverse than they are, and they're willing to take that risk and
Hmm.
gamble. And at the end of the
Hmm.
day, it's probably their decision. So if they're
Right.
overriding the decision that you made, so you're right. You might as well just jump in both feet and smile and go for it, right? So
That's
I
right.
think that's a great perspective and a great attitude to have in that particular situation for sure. What's the best compliment you've ever received throughout your career?
So that's a great question too. I had whenever I was working for a large security alarm monitoring station, I had a group of about 40 employees that worked for me. And
Hmm.
I had a group that did billing. And we had about 1 million customers that we did billing for every month,
Wow.
recurring billing. And there was a young man who worked in that group who had come into the business not long after high school looking for a job. I'd encouraged him to go to school, get his degree while he was working. We would help pay for his degree. And so he graduated with his degree, and he really was at the point where he needed a more challenging position. He
Sure.
was in AR. He really needed to move to see a different accounting perspective. He'd gotten an accounting degree. So I talked to him after he graduated. I said, "Look, the way that the department is set right now, I don't have a position for you to move you into
Sure.
where you could learn something different." I said, "So while I'm saying this, and it hurts me to say this, I think it's probably in your best interest to find another a job somewhere else." I said, "And I will be glad to help you. I will be a reference, whatever. You've been
Yeah.
an excellent employee for me." So that this was a back many years ago, and I don't know if you recall when everybody was wearing the little um, bracelets that had WWJD.
Yeah. What would Jesus do?
What would Jesus do, right? So he had worn one of these bracelets, and we didn't ever talk about it necessarily. So he went and started interviewing with businesses to get a job, and so he was selected to fill a position. And so whenever he came back to put his resignation in, um, he worked for my controller. He reported directly for my controller, and I was the CFO. So anyway,
Sure.
he came back, and I found out he got a job, and I went to congratulate him, and I was like, "So," I said, "tell me about the interview." So he was telling me the questions they asked, and he goes, he said, "And there were some of the questions that I really wasn't quite sure how to answer, but I would just look down at my bracelet and I would say, 'What would Janet do?'"
Oh,
So I
that's
thought,
great.
that is such a great compliment to have somebody watch you making decisions, watch you interacting with your team members, and want to emulate that behavior. Highly, highly
Absolutely.
complimentary.
Absolutely. I love it. That's a great story. What's the best advice you've ever received throughout your career?
um, Probably don't give up. You know, Everything is fixable. There's a few things. Never give up.
Hmm.
Everything is fixable. Follow a dream. Um, Stay true to your values.
Fantastic. I love it. I love it. Um, how would your significant other describe what it is you do?
So, my significant other would describe what I do as, he clearly knows exactly what I do.
Sure.
Um, you would probably describe it as herding cats on most days because I am in this startup environment. It's a little
Yes.
different than when
100%.
you're in an established business and everything has kind of already settled into some sort of process or path. When you're in a startup, it's every day's a new day, and every day will bring with it multiple surprises. And you
Yep.
just deal with the surprises and, you know, put the fire out, put it in a box, whatever you need to do to get through the day.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree with that. It's whatever fire is burning brightest at the moment, right? That's the one you
Exactly.
Oh, I mean that's the spirit of an entrepreneur for sure. Like, I have all these tasks throughout the day, and then I got this other one over here that's been nagging me, and I'm like, oh, I got to deal with this. I have to deal
Yes.
with it. And I find that it's the ones that nag me the most that if I hurry up and get them out of the way, my life is a lot less stressful.
Yeah.
So I always try to tackle the hardest thing or the thing that I'm putting off the most, and just even if I can't finish the task, like, something simple like just, getting started with making content and things like that. I just have to get started, right? Once I get
Yes.
started, the momentum carries on, and then, it makes life just so much less stressful when you're just, dealing with things on that basis in regards to that, in my opinion, anyway.
Exactly. No, I agree with you. I try to do the things I dread the most the very first thing in the morning because I'm a morning person.
Yep.
And then I'm also, I relate with you because the first step is always the hardest step.
Yep.
And then once you get that step gone, then it just seems like your feet just follow and you get the task finished and everything's much better.
That's exactly right. So, this is probably my favorite question I get to ask people, and it's always one that I save towards the end. Um, a lot of people, we talk about our successes in work and our lives and everything like that, which I think is great. But I think it's our failures that make us. And I was wondering if you'd be interested in sharing a failure that you had in life, throughout your career, that you really got a lesson out of and you learned something from.
That's a good question. I think if you live and breathe, you fail every day, right? So
Absolutely.
it's like, okay, which one do I talk about here? Um, I guess probably the failures that hurt the most for me is when I make a mishire where you think this person is going to fit in with the team. You think this person has the right skill set.
Hmm.
You invest yourself because you've gone through the process of the vetting of the resumes, the interviews, the decision, the battling for their pay and their position, yada yada. So you get so invested, and sometimes it's just really really hard to say, you know what, this is not working out,
Yeah.
and it's just not a good fit, or I needed someone with stronger skills in this area or that, and I thought that's what you communicated with me or to me. That's the thing that hurts the most. But every time it happens, I try really to look at it and go, it didn't work out here for that person, but I'm freeing them up to find the right place for them.
Yeah.
And if you can always keep that in mind, because if you're a leader, if you're a manager, you hire and fire, you're going to have these situations. And if you can
100%.
just always keep in mind, do it with dignity and keeping them as a whole person with their spirit, but
Yes.
explaining to them exactly why it isn't working, having those conversations in a dignified manner, and then helping them to move forward, to find another job, basically. But that's the failures I regret the most, are the ones when I make a mishire.
Well, first of all, I mean, I think that's a fantastic way to approach it. Like you're freeing them up to go find what's right for them, right? And
Mhm.
I think that's great attitude to have. But it's so hard when you have just such a little time with each person that you're interviewing. You got their resume
Yes.
and the interview goes great, and then you're thinking that they're going to gel with your team and they're going to be the right match, and then as time goes on, you see, oh man, I missed that, and it's
Hmm.
not really that you missed it; it's just you didn't have enough data, right?
That's right.
So
That's
so
correct.
you always have to look at it as you made the best decision at the time with the data that you had at that moment. And I
That's a
think if you
very good
approach it and
point.
you think about it that way, you should never be upset about it. But I love the way that you approach it as like, hey, I'm freeing them up for, this might not be the right match for them, or we're not the right place for them, but there's something else out there that's better for them. And I'm freeing them up to go find their happiness too, or their perfect place as well.
Yes,
So
exactly.
I love
Everybody
that.
needs to be fulfilled at work. You need to
Yes.
you need to feel appreciated. You need to feel a part of
Mhm.
the process, a part of the team. And if there's any part of that that's not working, then it's not working for everybody.
Yeah, yeah, and we spend so much time at our careers and our jobs, and
Yes,
we have so much passion and devotion towards it. We all have to enjoy it. It's got to be a great environment, or otherwise, why are you doing it, right? I mean, you
that's
don't want
right.
to go to a place that you're miserable every day. Um,
Yes,
that's for sure, because that's not going to be good for anybody, right?
that's right. That's exactly right.
One last question I have for you. If you could talk to your 20-year-old self, what advice would you give her?
I think the advice would be take more risks. A lot of people that go into our profession and the accounting profession are not big
Very
risk
risk averse.
takers,
Yeah, very
right?
risk averse. Yeah.
Uh, I think take risk and gamble on yourself because it will pay off. You'll either learn or you'll do something different.
She'll do
You
something
know,
great, right?
you could do something great, right? Exactly.
I have a saying, it's always bet on myself,
Yes, there you
I'm
go. And the
always
same
betting
thing.
on myself. I know that if I approach something with passion and I give it my all, nothing can go wrong. I can
Yeah.
fail a million times, and like you said, you learn every time you fail. So what do you got to lose? So
Yes.
you gotta be risked. You gotta be willing to take some risks in life, and I'm definitely not opposed to that myself.
Yes.
So, well, Janet, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I really hope
Thank
you enjoyed
you.
it. I enjoyed getting to
Uh,
know you and getting to hear your story. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you, Sven, and best of luck to you.
Absolutely. You as well.
Talk to you later.